Hi there, my name's John McTaggart from Talking Blues. We frequently get asked for advice on the fact that some forces, although by no means all, will actually ask candidates to, once they've done their assessment centre, once they've done an interview after the assessment centre, to turn up and give a 5-minute presentation on a topic which the candidate's normally advised of in advance. So, what we decided to do is to actually give a little bit of advice and a few hints and tips on actually preparing that presentation. Typical kinds of things that we get asked to do are a 5-minute presentation without using visual aids, which is why I'm sticking with this slide on the back, without using visual aids of what you could do to reduce youth disorder in your community. Or it might be to make greater inroads into recruiting minority groups from within the community. Or it might be the biggest challenges that actually take place or are facing the force. So when you are notified you have to do one of these presentations, have a bit of a think about the kind of topic that you've been given and the kind of skills and abilities that you are expected to actually display. So if it's about the community, you're going to be expected at some point within the 5 minutes to refer to the groupings within the communities. We've covered that elsewhere in other amounts of detail, but be able to articulate what the community actually consists of. What aims are you trying to achieve with the community? How will you know that you've actually achieved it? If you're dealing about youth disorder, be able to define what you mean by youth disorder and look beyond the small-minded element of simply trying to arrest people. Always look at what is causing these basic problems and what you can do to not deal with the symptoms, but actually eradicate the problems. So the kind of topic I'm going to talk about today is you're asked something on the lines of, okay, how would you actually reduce youth disorder in your community? But you'll be told you have 5 minutes to deal with it. Some forces are quite strict about the 5 minutes, some forces let you go over a little bit. Okay, but either way, it's normally 5 minutes. You're normally presenting to 2 or 3 people, which will be your interview panel. There's almost invariably no use of IT allowed. So yeah, you could take loads of flip charts in, but realistically it's 5 minutes. How long are you actually going to be able to use flip charts for in a 5-minute kind of period? And there may not be a clock in the room. So, if I have been asked to actually prepare a presentation on youth disorder and how I would reduce that, what I'd be looking for is, at best, producing maybe a single sheet of paper. I probably would try and do it on the computer, so that it was nice and neat. But PowerPoint, for example, is quite useful for just very roughly putting in shapes and squares and arrows. But I would limit it to a single sheet of paper. And then what I would do on that single sheet of paper is just put a small number of keywords down. What you don't want is effectively a sheet of A4 because you don't want to make the mistake of just reading from that particular sheet of paper, because to be honest, it's boring. It's boring for the panel and it makes you sound boring. So don't do that. So from my particular perspective, what I like to see is a candidate who is energized, who will come in, who is giving the impression that, okay, they might be a little bit nervous, but actually looking forward to delivering this particular presentation to me. A bit like doing a best man speech, I suppose. Somebody who is quite keen to deliver and to show to the panel what they can actually do. So, if my presentation was on youth disorder, what I would have done is I would have researched in my local force the level of youth disorder that actually is. So, what is youth disorder? And I would start off for the first minute of my presentation talking about, if I could find out, how many youth disorder calls we actually get, a loose definition of what youth disorder actually is. And maybe it's gangs of youths congregating on streets with nothing to do, sometimes with the best of intentions or actually acting in quite a harmless manner, not committing any offences in and of itself, but by their nature being intimidating, even unintentionally, to passers-by and local residents. So I would explain what the actual issue was. And then I would go on to show that I was looking at a wider issue. Because the issue isn't actually the fact that there's a group of kids playing football on a street corner. The wider issue is the fact that those kids are probably playing on that street corner because they're bored and they have nothing else to do. So the solution to that, and this is what I would explain to the panel, isn't to actually just turn up and move those kids on, because they'll just go somewhere else. So within my presentation, I'd be looking to show that I've recognised the problem of basically these kids having nowhere else to go, and that I recognised what the problem was that I needed to actually form some kind of partnership or activity which would actually enable those children to go, or young people to go and participate in activities in a safe environment where they could develop and express themselves freely without upsetting or intimidating anybody else. So we've defined the problem. That'll be the first minute or so of our presentation. We've then started to look at potential solutions to that particular problem, or potential options. That'll be the key thing. And then once I'd looked at my potential options, I need to have 1 or 2 minutes here, remember, I would consider, can we arrest them all? No. Is that ever going to be a good thing? No. Put them before the court or into the criminal justice system? No. We're just criminalising people. I'd be looking for some kind of community-based answer. And what we're now doing is we're showing to the panel, you think about the community. So my community-based answer would be to look around for, are there any local facilities nearby which are perhaps being underutilised? Are there any sources of funding which could be utilised? It might be you have a group of shopkeepers, for example, in one particular estate who are always complaining about kids hanging around outside their shop. That being the case, why not see if you can get those shopkeepers to actually donate some money and then find perhaps a rundown sports centre or a local community hall which is some spare time, and use the money that you've gathered from the shopkeepers to actually buy time in a community centre, share some of that money with the local youth association and get them to use that money to pay for a social worker to run an after-hours five-a-side league inside the community hall. So by doing that, what you've done is you've utilised the community, the shopkeepers, to provide a source of funding to utilise an underused community resource, the hall, to actually give these kids somewhere safe to go and play and burn off all that energy while helping out the local community. And in terms of further partnership, what you could then do is go and get the local newspaper, which is always looking for good news stories, to actually publicise all of this, so the community hall gets a boost in terms of publicity. The local shopkeepers have a boost in terms of community, and we'll see their sales figures go up because people are no longer being actually put off going to that shop. And of course, all the facilities are being given free publicity. And that's what my presentation would actually cover in terms of content. So identifying what the problem is, quoting a few force statistics is great. Not too many, but just 1 or 2 would be great if you can find them from the force website. Identifying a number of options and then saying what your strategy would actually be. Once you finish that 5-minute presentation, almost invariably the panel will ask you 1 or 2 questions. In that particular case, I would say, well, say the local shopkeepers say to you, well, we already pay our rates. In fact, we pay our rates to the police. So why can't the police just fire these lads off? Why do we, the shopkeepers, have to pay? And my response to that would be that, well, I think that's a very valid point, because it is. But what I'd be looking to say to the shopkeepers is that it's a business investment. They themselves were saying, presumably, that customers are being put off, so the shops are losing money. By making that small investment in the community, then they are going to get free publicity from local press. And additionally, what's going to happen is that they're going to have more people going to the shop, spending more money because there are no kids outside to put them off. So that's a real win-win type of situation. And be prepared for those kind of questions. It might get said to you, certain behaviours need enforcement. Yeah, absolutely they do. But the key thing is that by doing what I've suggested there in this presentation, you are eliminating a lot of those issues well before you get to the enforcement stage. So, by doing that, you'll impress the panel with your community engagement, your ability to interact with the local community, your ability to make decisions, and making decisions by evaluating information. So that's what the content of the presentation would be for me. And again, I would just do that on a single piece of paper. And at the end of my presentation, I would give that piece of paper to the panel, and that'd be keywords, maybe a couple of words in a circle or with an arrow. And that would be that for me. Don't spend hours and hours printing stuff off in PowerPoint or getting your sister-in-law, who's a graphic designer, to do all of that. Quite frankly, we won't be interested. If you want to see who is great at PowerPoint, we go and employ a specialist company. We're not. We're interested in you as an individual. And a final part of advice I would give you for presentations are the fact that we will maybe see, as assessors, 30 or 40 of these in a week. And we do get sick and tired of people walking in and delivering a really uninspired, boring, totally unconfident presentation. So it's your chance to impress us with your personality. We don't expect it to be John Travolta, but when you walk in, give us a nice bright smile. Say good afternoon. Introduce yourself so that we know who you are. Tell us what the topic is. Smile quite frequently. Make loads of eye contact with us, and at least give the impression that you are enjoying the challenge. We know you're going to be a bit nervous. We're not asking you to be too cocky or arrogant about it. But let us see that you're actually enjoying it. Don't apologise to us for what you're about to tell us. Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, horrendous phrase to use. Yeah? Don't tell us how bad it's going to be. Don't apologise if you and ah or miss a line. Do you know what? It simply doesn't matter. Everyone does the same thing. What we're interested in is that if you bounce into that particular room, showing you've got a bit of personality, enjoying it as best you can, smiling with us, getting us engaged, getting us interested, by all means feel free to use hand gestures because it doesn't really detract from what you're saying at all. Interact with us and just shows you a bit of personality. Don't deliver things in a flat monotone. Don't have a sheet of paper in front of you and be looking down at that and reading out in a single tone of voice that what I am going to do is present to you. Because to be honest, folks, and you probably got bored in those last 10 seconds there, it's boring. Bounce in. Tell us what we're going to get. Tell us or show us you're happy to deliver it to us. Change the intonation of your voice every now and then so that you're actually making us pay attention to various things. Loads of eye contact. The odd hand gesture every now and then, appropriately, to actually point out the key issues you're trying to address. And then have a timer with you so you can just keep on glancing down to make sure that your time is actually within what it should be. It should be right about, well, it should be 5 minutes. And then, as with everything throughout this process, please, please, please practice it beforehand. Sit down and inflict this on your husband, boyfriend, wife, girlfriend, or your pet dog, whoever, just so that it comes across as being confident, as being slick, as the fact you know what you're talking about. Because that's what we're looking for in police officers. Okay? Don't be afraid of the presentation. Your whole career will be about standing in front of groups of people presenting. You will, even from a fairly early point in your service, be presenting or briefing groups of people at the start of the shift. You will be running operations. You'll be standing in front of community meetings. You'll be standing in front of bystanders at a scene, saying to them the old classic, "Move along, folks, nothing here to see." Or actually, you might be saying to them, "It's been an accident. No one's been badly hurt, folks. You know, time to move on, please, because you're getting in the way of the ambulance. Please move on." So you exercise your communication skills. And that's what this is about. It's about communication. It's about being confident. It's about a little bit of thought, a little bit of engagement, but it's a chance for us to see the real you. For those kind of things, believe in you, because if you don't believe in you and you don't sell you, why should we believe in you or buy it? Okay? Not a major problem.